Hoo-ha, hoo-ha. Da hoo ho reads blah hoo chorus.
The Whoers. The Whoers down in Whoerville. Well, Christmas is coming on.
I'm gonna be totally honest. Every year, out of everyone in our family, I'm usually the one who's like the most hyped up the earliest.
Yeah.
Besides Mom, because Mom just is a Hallmark.
She is a Hallmark. We've talked about this. She is a Hallmark character.
She is literally a Hallmark movie. This year was not feeling it. I was feeling stressed more than anything about having to get gifts, and like I had to work on Christmas Day, so that's kind of puts a damper in the spirit. And then like 3 days before Christmas, I was like, you know what? Now I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think it's been a long year.
It's been a long year. I wasn't feeling it until I came home, which was the 23rd, which is when we technically celebrated Christmas. So, yeah, that's what I felt.
We had a good Christmas.
We did. We had a lovely seafood feast on the 23rd that served as our Christmas dinner. We opened a bunch of presents, had a lovely time. All was great.
All was great in the world.
Yeah, no, it was not great in the world, but...
Nothing's great.
But it was a very pleasant, homey time. Yeah,
it was good Christmas. It's weird. We haven't been to our normal Christmas Eve party in like 3 years now.
Yeah, and we also, our other side of the family will sometimes host a Christmas party on the other side of the state, and we haven't gone to that, and, well, they didn't even have it the past 2 years, but...
Yeah, so it's just been a weird time. We're gearing up towards 2022.
We are.
We're a couple days away.
I can't say that I'm excited.
No, because remember last year, we were like, 2021's gotta be a better year.
And it wasn't.
And then we were surely mistaken, and it was worse.
Yeah, we started the year, spoiler alert for our next episode, but our 1-year anniversary is on January 6th.
Yeah, so our anniversary, or when we released our podcast, our
technically
initial set date was
January 6th.
January 6th.
And then I was at work, and I'm watching the news, and I'm reading the news, and I texted Hannah, and I said, we cannot publicize our episode today.
Yeah, so technically, like, our our anniversary is January 6th, but we didn't really announce it until the next week.
Yeah, and technically we did put an episode up the last week of December, but that was just so we could learn how to upload things, like, worked.
Right.
Essentially.
Right, but yeah, so it's, it's been a year. I feel like it's weird because... It's been a really shitty year.
Yeah.
But also in terms of, like, our podcast, it's been a good year.
Yeah.
Because it's been our only year.
Right.
So we have nothing to compare it to.
We have nothing to compare it to.
But I feel like it's been a good year. We're getting ready for our year anniversary, so that's fun.
We have one good thing in our lives, being a podcast that we created during a global pandemic because we were bored. And we haven't quit. I think that's something to be proud of, Hannah.
I'm so shocked.
We said this in our first episode, that we are quitters. Like, we quit all the time, everything. And the fact that we managed to do this for a full year is kind of shocking.
And dare I say we're carrying momentum going into a new year?
Yes. Like, we've already started planning for, like, the year.
Yeah.
Like, we're roughly starting to plan specific people, like, guests we want to have. We're planning out, like, some of our longer form episodes. And I'm pretty excited for it.
Yeah. So, cheers to...
2022 podcast.
Podcast, not life.
Not life. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas and happy holidays.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays. Ooh, yeah. Welcome. This is Research Rank Repeat. I am one of your co-hosts, Alyssa.
This is co-host Hannah.
And we are here with our final Christmas episode.
And I know you're looking at your calendar and you're saying, hey, wait a minute. Christmas has passed.
4 days passed.
That is true. But...
God damn it, it's still the holiday season.
We need some joy.
We do.
End the year. And so we wanted to finish off with a little more Christmas magic, because what's more wholesome than Christmas movies? A lot of things. But
yes. So this is going to be interesting. And this was actually really hard because there are so many Christmas movies. We only felt like we could do 5. For the scope of what we needed to do, we have found 5 movies as a pretty good median to do an episode on. We tried to pick a movie from a different decade.
Well, kind of that, and also when we were, like, coming up with the list, we kind of tried to do different genres of Christmas movies.
Yes.
Like, we wanted some animated, we wanted some, like, more humor, and then we wanted, like, a new one, and then a musical one.
Yes.
So it made it very hard to rank because they are very...
I didn't even rank.
Oh.
I didn't finish my ranking.
Do you want to discuss and then take, like, a break?
No, just keep talking.
Okay.
Just let me do it quick. I just realized I didn't
you're like
finish my
Audrey.
ranking. I know.
We kind of wanted to do a little bit of a variety. It did make it difficult to rank because all of the movies are very different. And I think it's hard to compare some of them because of the different, like, the nature of each movie. But yeah, so we basically picked 5 random Christmas movies. We will go through and discuss them. Having said that, though, this is our final Christmas episode because our next episode will be beginning of January. So we'll be into a new year. We'll talk more about that at the end.
We will. Sorry, I was writing while you were talking. I don't know if you discussed this, but we are planning to make this a running list. Mm-hmm. So every Christmas, contingent on how long we do this for, we are planning to add more movies and we will enter them into a full ranking. So we'll have 5 movies this year, we'll probably have 5 movies next year, and then there will be like a joint ranking on all of our Christmas movies.
We joked a couple weeks ago, Alyssa accidentally said we had a website.
Yes.
That might have been the
What was that?
soap in the shower.
Oh.
Hopefully.
Really?
Yeah, it falls.
Ew. That was loud.
Go check.
Okay. Yeah, maybe go check on that. Make sure someone doesn't need life alert. Tis the soap.
Anyways, so we were kind of joking about making a website. It was kind of like a running gag.
Yes.
But I am currently getting a degree in web development, and I thought it might be useful to practice making a website.
Yeah.
So we might actually make a website.
Yeah. Hannah, you should say Hannah.
Yes.
We'll probably make a website.
Well, Alyssa can contribute.
I can contribute.
So if we did that, we would probably keep that running list, like, on there.
Yes.
So that it's, like, easier to see.
Yeah, we would have, like, posts with our, like, lists,
right.
Our ranking lists, and we're, like, especially for things like Pixar, because there's going to be 2 new movies coming out next year, and eventually Fast and the Furious, whenever that happens. Ooh. We'll be able to update our lists when those things come out.
But yeah, so, let's get into holiday discussion. Alright, so let's start with one of yours since you have more. The first one I've written down is How the Grinch Stole Christmas, if you'd like to do that first.
We could start with that. Okay, so How the Grinch Stole Christmas is a televised special released in 1966. It has a runtime of 25 minutes, and it's not rated because it released on television and not in theaters. So, How the Grinch Stole... Enjoy that one, Hannah. How the Grinch Stole Christmas was originally a book written by Dr. Seuss in 1957. The producer and director of the film was trying to convince Dr. Seuss to make a movie, and Dr. Seuss was reluctant to do so because he had a large difficulty with he made and produced a feature-length film called 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T, which was not received well by audiences. Apparently, in the screening, people walked out after 15 minutes. Apparently, though, it has fared well, as it holds like a 70-something on Rotten Tomatoes. So, apparently, just the audience wasn't ready for whatever 5,000 fingers of something are. And also because Charlie Brown Christmas had come out the year before in 1965 and had such a large success that eventually he agreed, and they were given a pretty large budget because of that success. I have conflicting information. Wikipedia told me that this special has 15,000 cells and drawings, and IMDb told me it had 25,000. So it's one of those two. It was shown annually on CBS until 1987, when the rights were basically distributed to like every single company in existence. So it airs in many different locations now. So because pretty much every television station was fully in color at this point in 1966, they changed the Grinch's color scheme. So in the books, in the initial print run of the books, he was white because it was all in black and white. So he was a white character. And the director decided to make him green for the televised version. And that's essentially what the Grinch is now known as. He's now a green character in every, in reprints of the book and all the adaptations in the future. He becomes green. So that is interesting to know. So it aired in a block, which was like a large wave of animated holiday specials, including Frosty the Snowman, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, a lot of the stop motion, like the claymation animations. They all kind of came out around the same time in the 60s, so it's just like a weird boom of people loving animation. And critic Rich Dubrow was quoted as saying that the Grinch, quote, is probably as good as most of the other holiday cartoons, end quote, as I could not find much in the form of reviews and reception of this. It holds 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was rated number 1 on TV Guide's Best Holiday Family Specials. And it holds an 8.4 out of 10 on IMDb. So there was some controversy in that none of the vocalists were credited on the special, including Thurl Ravenscroft, who voiced the singing role of Your Mean One, Mr. Grinch. He was notably known as the voice of Tony the Tiger. Eventually, Dr. Seuss wrote to every column to give him credit because, essentially people thought that the voice of the Grinch was the voice of the singing voice. So the other interesting thing is that Dr. Seuss wrote all the songs for the special. He wrote all the lyrics, and they created what was known as Seussian Latin in a lot of their songs to trying to replicate Latin, but in rhyme form of Dr. Seuss. And people actually thought that it was Latin and wrote in to be what does this translate to? So I guess they did a good job. So now I have my summary. Horton Hears a Who is a book that follows the Whos, but not the Whos of Whoville, terrorizing the Grinch in this classic television special. Smile a fiendish grin and feel your heart shrink 3 sizes as you watch a 53-year-old cranky boomer get mad at people celebrating a holiday from 10,000 feet away. Or meters, I'm not sure which of the two it is. Will he steal Christmas, or will he realize that the Christmas spirit is within us all?
Yeah, the Grinch is a petty little bitch in this movie.
I didn't know he was 53. So I watched this movie with subtitles. Can I just say Peacock, can you please put subtitles in any other color than white? This entire movie takes place in snow, and you have white subtitles over white snow. I was struggling very hard. But in reading those subtitles, I was like, excuse me, the Grinch is 53?
I think, here's what I'll say, the Jim Carrey version of the Grinch, I know, it's controversial, people either love it or hate it, but that does a lot better job of giving you the backstory on why the Grinch is the way he is.
Gives the context to why he hates Christmas.
Right. In this movie, essentially, the Grinch just, for no reason at all, decides to go and destroy a bunch of people's Christmas, and then the Whos look like saints at the end because they don't care about it all, and because they sing their song around the tree.
And this special is pretty much verbatim, word for word, the book.
Right.
With some added things, clearly the songs and...
Yeah, and it's very short. It's like a television show.
Right.
I really like Dr. Seuss's, cartoon animation style, how they do the animation.
I do, too. There are some really iconic shots from this that, I remember. If I think of the Grinch, I can think of a ton of different things from this. There's that fiendish grin where his face curls up that terrifies you.
Yeah, I used to be horrified as a kid.
And then there's also the whole sequence of Your Mean One, Mr. Grinch. Mm-hmm. That's iconic. Can we talk about how the Grinch needs an alignment? His posture is his chest is so far forward. He's like a reverse hunchback.
Because he's used to peering over the Who city.
The whole 10,000 feet or meter. I think it's feet. Also, the town is like just 20 houses. It's just like a little village. How did they make that much noise that you could hear them from that high up? But I did notice it looked like it was remastered, the version on Peacock.
Yeah.
Like, it definitely seemed like it was maybe an HD remaster or something, and you've got the classic, like, weird 60s trippy animation where clearly all these people were on acid or mushrooms or, you know, something. Makes it for a little trippy. He goes and complains about Christmas for literally about 5 minutes straight, just at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
He loves to complain.
So do I.
Yeah. He loves complaining. You know, what I do like is that he does all this bad shit. He's like, I stole Christmas, now they'll shut up, and they just come out and they're like, yeah, it's Christmas. It's Christmas, bitch.
Yeah.
We love Christmas. You don't need the presents. It's not about keep without boxes or bags.
And they're like, you want to carve the roast beast?
And he's like, yeah, sure. You know, he saves Christmas. He grows in strength. His eyes turn from red to blue. His heart grows. And then he sleds down the hill and is like, yeah, you know what? Maybe I like Christmas. Maybe all I needed was a friend.
Is the Grinch a successful version of Syndrome from Incredibles? Because he makes his own...
If everyone's super, no one is.
No, because he steals Christmas, and then he becomes the hero by saving Christmas.
Oh, like you're saying when Syndrome tried to take out all the superheroes so he could become the superhero, basically.
But did it unsuccessfully.
Like
how he made his own disaster to try and save it.
Yes.
Because technically at the end, he's the hero.
He is the hero. He saved Christmas.
So maybe the Grinch really knows what he's talking about.
Maybe.
Yeah. I guess don't have much to say just because it's such a short story.
And it's also a classic. Like, I think I've seen this every year. Because it's always on. It was always on every year. We always watched it every year. It's one of those ones you grow up with. And, you know, I have fond memories of. And there's not a lot to dislike. It's been 60 years. Almost 60 years. And the animation still holds up.
Yeah.
It looks nice.
It's a good story.
Yeah.
I don't have any issues with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, for favorites, we are adding in a special little...
bonus.
So, we're gonna do the best, like, music, song, like, incorporation or moment.
Yes, into the movie. So, this could be a Christmas song, or it could just be a song you thought was well incorporated into this Christmas movie.
Right. So, let's do favorite character.
So, this one's hard because there's really only one main character, and that's the Grinch.
Yeah.
You get Max the dog, and you get Cindy Lou Who, and really that's it. So
you only had 3 choices.
You only had 3 choices, and so I felt like I had to pick the Grinch because he learns and he grows. You know, he's a mean, cranky man who does a bad thing, realizes his mistake, and fixes it. And I think everyone can learn something from that.
And has no consequences for his actions.
Yeah. I guess that's true.
That is true. Mine is going to be the combination of... My God.
What are you looking at?
There's a spider.
Where?
On the lamp. I'm going to turn into Spider-Man. I'm not going to be able to focus until...
Alright, fine.
Did you just drop it? Are you kidding me?
He might have gone inside.
Well, now I'm even more horrified.
He's a little baby spider.
Yeah, I don't care.
I'll just check through here and make sure he didn't get on a piece of paper.
All it took was one bite and Peter Parker became Spider-Man.
Okay, well, you're not going to become Spider-Man. I tell you that much right now. Oh, he's over here.
Oh.
He's on the other side. He's inside the lamp.
Is he inside?
Yeah, he's inside the lamp over on this side.
Okay. I swear to God, if he drops down on me, I'm going to
He's
vomit.
not going to drop down on you.
I will vomit, then cry.
Okay, great.
Will not be a pretty picture.
Make a great podcast episode.
Right. So, I did the combination of Max and the Grinch.
Okay.
Because I really like Max in this animated version. He's very funny. Mm-hmm. And he's like...
He is funny.
He's a mood.
One of my favorites is when he's sitting and he just goes...
Yeah, that was actually my favorite scene.
Yeah.
So when he's on the sled and Grinch is like looking for him and he just sits there and waves.
And he just waves at him. I love that.
And then shrugs his shoulders. And I was like, he can't be bothered. Favorite line has to be, he took the roast beast.
I went with the classic quote, I wouldn't touch you with a 99 I went with the classic quote, I wouldn't touch you with a 39.5-foot pole. Because that's how I feel about people I don't like.
Yeah,
Use that insult and everyone knows you mean business.
Yes. Did you have a favorite scene?
I also really liked the downhill sled scene with Max and the Grinch.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, for me, the music moment was, like, only one choice.
Yeah.
And that's Your Mean One, Mr. Grinch.
If anyone is out here picking the Welcome Christmas, come at me and tell me why that is the case, please.
It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was one option. What? Oh, yeah, he's out.
He's moving. He's pissed. He's coming back for me.
Yeah, because you angered him.
I know, I don't like it.
He's not coming back this way. He's fine. So, yeah, to me when Mr.
Came back.
Just let him be.
He's a petty little bitch.
Hey, Hannah, I will tell you if he starts to slide
No,
down.
you won't.
I'm looking at you. I will see him. He's in my line of sight. I will tell you if he starts to slink down here, okay?
Okay, fine, but I swear to God, if he starts to drop, you better tell me.
Alright, I will.
Or I will cry.
I will.
And I'll throw it in your face.
I'll catch him in my hand. He's a little spider, so
I'll hold you to that.
Yeah.
I don't remember what we were talking about.
We're talking about the musical moment being Your Mean One, Mr. Grinch. Do you have a favorite bit from that song?
Probably I Wouldn't Touch You with a 39.5-foot pole.
Yeah. I like the one where he is, like, snaking under things.
Oh,
like a
yeah.
little snake.
It reminds me, have you ever seen that kid on a Roomba? What are those called? Segway thing?
Yes.
And he's like slinking around the house.
It is kind of like that.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any other things?
Nope.
Great.
Let's do one of my movies.
Yes.
National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Okay.
So this movie was an hour and 37 minutes, released in 1989, rated PG-13, has a $73.3 million box office total. It was written by John Hughes.
Oh, yes.
Classic, made all the movies in the 80s, basically.
Pretty in Pink,
Ferris
Breakfast
Bueller's Day
Club,
Off.
Yeah.
Home Alone.
He was a great director. Sadly dead.
Yes.
Sad times.
So it has a 7.6 out of 10 on IMDb and a 67% on Rotten Tomatoes. So basically, National Lampoon was an American humor magazine that ran from 1970 to 1998. And this movie is a part of a 5-movie series that was known as the National Lampoon's Vacation series. Those movies ran from 1983 until the most recent, which was released in 2015. This was the third installment of that franchise, I guess, technically a franchise. So the movie was based on John Hughes' short story that appeared in National Lampoon magazine called Christmas 59. Basically, they liked the short story so much that they wanted him to write more, and he wanted to write it into a movie. So they basically gave him permission to write that into a movie. So interesting, there was no official soundtrack that was released for this film.
Oh.
But in 1999, a bootleg copyright came out containing music in the film, and it appeared on a bunch of internet auction sites. And apparently it was sold at Six Flags in the souvenir stores.
Yeah.
And no one realized it was a fake. They didn't know it was a fake. So the movie is filmed primarily in Colorado, and then the house shots are in California.
Okay.
But all the outdoor scenes were from Colorado. So the director of this movie was supposed to be Chris Columbus, who did Home Alone.
Yes.
So he was supposed to direct the movie, but him and Chevy Chase had personality clashes, which I know Chevy Chase has a lot of issues with more than just him.
Yeah, that does not surprise me to hear that.
John Hughes ended up giving Home Alone to Chris Columbus to direct.
I see. Yes.
After that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's all I could really... There was not a lot of background on this movie in general. Mm-hmm. Okay, so here is my summary. In what might be our family's most quoted movie, Christmas Vacation is a more crude take on your typical Christmas film. The Griswolds, your typical suburban family from the Midwest, find themselves struggling through the holidays when family comes to town. It's just your typical Christmas with kidnapping, explosions, and explicit yelling montages. It's kind of funny because we've been watching this movie since we were kids.
Oh, yeah. There's a very specific part where he goes on an expletive rant where our parents would, mute it.
Yeah, and I specifically remember the year they finally decided they didn't have to mute it.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing, as long as you don't repeat any of these words, we can play it.
Which was the mantra of any movie we watched as children, comedy movies, since we were allowed to watch a lot of comedy movies that were probably would be deemed inappropriate, but as long as we didn't repeat the swear words,
it was all
we're
good.
golden, you know?
Yeah, this is definitely one of, like, the most quotable movies. There's so many lines from this. We've gotten... The sweaters we were talking about
are from this movie.
We also got my dad a Christmas ornament that plays lines from the movie.
I use the quotes from this movie, like, weekly.
Yeah.
Just in various points of life. Like, I'm just gonna spoiler alert. I literally wrote for favorite line, I'll pick in the moment.
Yeah,
because I couldn't pick one.
There's, like, probably I could think of, like, 5 right now on the top of my head that I could have chose from. But yeah, I think it's just... To me, it's like, it's that humor Christmas movie.
Yeah. I wrote down that it's, especially at that time, like, physical comedy was really big. Like, there are many, like, physical gags in this movie that isn't really done that much now. Like, I don't feel like physical comedy isn't as, like, big as it was at that time. It's definitely also a lot of crude humor.
Yep.
For sure. Shitter's full.
Shitter's full. It's got a pretty good cast.
Yeah. Love or hate Chevy Chase, he has a presence.
He definitely has, like, a aura about him.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, you've got, like, Randy Quaid's in this movie. Like, he also is another person whose his public life's a bit of, like, a, you know.
A mess.
But then you get, like, Julie Louis-Dreyfus. Right. And you get, I can't think of her name, the mom from Everybody Loves Raymond.
Oh, Doris. Yeah, I can't remember.
But anyway, so you get a good cast. Rusty, the son, is
Big Bang Theory.
From Big Bang Theory.
And Juliette Lewis, who is in a lot of stuff, plays a daughter.
So I feel like you have a good cast. I would say, though, like, to me, Chevy Chase is the big character.
Yeah.
Everyone else feels like a supporting role. It feels like it's his movie because the whole thing just revolves around him. And... To me, it's like this movie is so... I don't even know what to say because it's a movie I'm so familiar with. I could probably quote most of this movie by now.
Oh. I really didn't write a lot of notes down because it was like, I know everything that happens in this movie. Yeah. Like, I didn't pick up on anything new that I hadn't picked up on before. I was trying to, but again, it's like... You've seen this movie so many times. It's, you know...
Yeah.
Sometimes even more than once a year.
But yeah, it's a funny movie. It's... I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's hard to explain it, like, people who haven't seen it. It definitely is of its time.
Yeah.
Like, some of the humor probably wouldn't pass now, or wouldn't be seen as comical now.
Which, you could say that about a lot of, like, 80s, 90s movies. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm ready to go into favorites.
Yeah.
I think my favorite character, I kind of felt like I had to go with Clark.
Yeah.
Just because, like I said, he is just the big main character. I think the supporting cast is really great. Mm-hmm. But to me, like, Clark is, like, the only pick, really.
Yeah, he's like a lovable asshole, is maybe how I would say that. Because, like, he does these things. Like, he puts his family in danger. You know, he, like, has to be right. But he, like, tries to do what's best. That doesn't always work, but, you know, gets his boss kidnapped and then an entire SWAT team breaks into their home to save him. But, you know, I think he's, like, a good lead. He works in that role.
Yeah. Let's do favorite song incorporation.
Okay.
So for me, it's always been one of my favorite parts of the movie is, weirdly enough, the intro.
Okay, yeah.
Where it's, I think the song's called Christmas Vacation. Yeah. It's basically, like, it's weird because they do, like, a cartoon introduction.
Yeah.
And I've just always really liked it. I think normally, to me, the opening credits are pretty, like, passable for most movies. Mm-hmm. You don't really pay attention. But this one I actually watched because I really like the animation. And so, in turn, I like the song that goes with it.
I thought about doing the intro because I do also like that. But I actually picked, near the end of the movie, they play Here Comes Santa Claus. Mm-hmm. And it's, like, this big moment when the family's, like, all celebrating. Like, Clark's gotten his bonus. He got through to his boss. But at the same time, the SWAT team is literally preparing to, like, enter their home and, like, arrest all of them. And it's just, like, the contrast and, like, just the chaos and the chaoticness of it. Chaoticness of it. Chaoticness. I don't know. It just fits really well. It has really good comedic timing.
Yes. My favorite scene, This one is like the physical comedy.
Yeah.
He's up on the roof trying to use a staple gun to hook the lights up, and he's basically trying to figure out how to hold the ladder best, and he keeps going back and forth with his hands. It's like one of those things where when I explain it's not going to sound funny, but if you've seen the movie, you know the scene. He just keeps going back and forth with his hands.
That was the same scene I picked. Yeah. I love that scene. It's so, well, it's because, like, it's that physical comedy that really works and is, like, it stands the test of time. Because he is, like, almost falling off this ladder and almost, like, rolling off the roof and sends, like, an ice cube through his neighbor's window, like, a shot of ice through the gutters. Like, it's just really, really funny.
Yeah.
And I love it.
I think favorite quote, because we're wearing these sweaters, I'm going to go with, "Why is the carpet all wet, Todd?"
Yeah. I don't know, Margot.
Yes.
So, I am going to pick a different one. I thought about picking this one. And I also really love that, like, I would be more surprised if I woke up with my head sewn to the carpet. But the one this year that I feel like I liked more than I have in previous years is when he's at work and he's talking to his boss, and there's just, like, his boss is followed by a line of people, and he's just like, "Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, kiss my ass, kiss your ass, kiss his ass, Happy Hanukkah." And it's just, like, the progression of that, I think, is really good comedic timing as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Our next movie, which is going to be The Muppets Christmas Carol. So, The Muppets Christmas Carol was released in 1992. It has a runtime of 1 hour and 26 minutes, and it has a rating of G. Surprisingly.
Yeah, I thought it would have been PG.
PG. This is the first time that Brian Henson had directed a movie, and he is the son of Jim Henson. Jim Henson had passed shortly before this movie was in production. And so it's adopted from the 1843 novella A Christmas Carol, which was written by the great Charles Dickens, which has been adapted like 800 times in so many, it's like, I think one of the most adapted stories like ever. They used some artistic licenses for the fact that the characters were Muppets, but for the most part it follows the plot of the story pretty much to a T. It's the 4th Muppets film released, and it was the first after Jim Henson's death, and also was dedicated to Richard Hunt, who was one of the main puppeteers of the Muppets, who had also died. It had mostly positive reviews, and it was a modest success. It was the first Muppet movie that was produced by Walt Disney Pictures, so they were really pushing it. Or made $27 million in the box office, but it came out around the same time as Home Alone 2 and Aladdin. So those were its two big, like, things that it was going up against. And, I mean, Home Alone 2 is a classic Christmas movie, and Aladdin, a classic Disney movie. So Charles Dickens is represented as the character of Gonzo, and he was chosen because they thought that he was the least likely choice to be Charles Dickens. So they're like, let's make him Charles Dickens. So it was initially pitched as a television special, but then they decided to make it a movie. It has a 76% on Rotten Tomatoes, a 7.7 out of 10 on IMDb, a 64 out of 100 on Metacritic, and a cinema score of A. My last bit of note I have is that Michael Caine had previously wanted to be on The Muppets, like the television show, and hadn't been. So then when he had the opportunity to be in this movie, he was like, please, I want to do it. He told Brian Henson that he, quote, "I'm going to play Scrooge as if it's an utterly dramatic part and there are no puppets around me. And I'm going to play this movie like I'm working with the Royal Shakespeare Company." So he essentially was like, I am not playing this like there's puppets around me. These are actors and I'm working with them. So he played it very straight. And considers this one of his, like, favorite roles he's ever done. So now I have my summary. Michael Caine stars as Scrooge McDuck. Why did you make that face?
That's not how you said it. It was a horrible impression.
No, it was Michael Caine.
It was horrible.
No, Michael Caine. Because his name sounds like Michael Caine.
No, I thought you were just trying to do
Michael Caine. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me start over. I literally wrote Michael Caine.
Because the way you said it.
Yeah.
You said it, like, in his accent.
Yeah, because that's the joke. Okay. Okay, let me try again. Okay. Michael Caine stars as Scrooge McDuck in this classic Christmas tale by the great Charles Dickens. Having been adapted over 100 times, the Muppets add a new spin as they play the majority of the cast, except for Rizzo, who plays himself, and create a new musical. There's plenty of content to make any child cry themselves to sleep. Trust me, I did. Okay, that's my summary.
Oh.
So this one's interesting is that I know I've seen this movie, and as much as Hannah says she doesn't remember it, I know she's also seen this movie, but it's been a long time. Like, the last time I saw this movie all the way through, I was probably a child. And so I didn't really remember a lot of it, and I was very pleasantly surprised.
I was absolutely dreading this movie because I have seen a million Christmas Carol variety. We used to go and see it every year in theater, or not in theaters, but like on
the stage of the play production.
Right, play production at like a local theater. For like years we did this. We would go like for my mom's birthday. And I do not really like the Christmas Carol. Maybe because I've seen it so many times. I've read the book. Novella, sorry. Like, ABC Family has made a Christmas movie based off Christmas Carol. Ghosts of Girlfriend's Past is essentially the Christmas Carol. Like, there's so many varieties. So I was really dreading it, but I also was very much, like, very into it.
Yeah. I think that was, like, the smartest decision to have Michael Caine play the straight man. Like, play it like it's a serious role. Because I think that lended really well to, like, the feel of it. I was reading something that they had to do, like, scenes for, like, the songs. He would purposely, like, ask to do the entire thing over again because he enjoyed it so much, like, actually doing, like, the scenes, the singing scenes, because they're like, oh, we could take it from here. And he's like, no, let's just do it from the beginning. Like, he really enjoyed his time in this movie, so I think that, like, everybody seemed to be having a good time. Also, we get this, like, really dramatic introduction of Scrooge. Like, you get a weird Dutch angle where he's, like, standing in the dark and is, like, this whole first song is all about how horrible he is. Very reminiscent of Belle from Beauty and the Beast, where the townspeople are talking about how weird Belle is. It's the same thing, but, like, Scrooge is, like a penny-pinching, like, crankety crotch old man. And I really liked it. I really liked the portrayal of all these characters as Muppets. Like, they maintained their personalities as Muppets, but also, like, we're embodying these characters. I also was reading something that the costumes were, like, extremely accurate to the time period. Like, someone did a video on YouTube about how it's, like, one of the most accurate portrayals of costume work, like, for that time period. So they, like, took it very seriously. And, like, built these, like, really intense sets where they could have, like, the puppeteers be below the ground and, like, had planks for, like, and, yeah, this, like, they put a lot of work into it. I think it shows there's, like, a lot of love and care.
I don't know if it's Michael Caine, it probably is, but that's the most, like, heartwarming. I feel like a lot of Scrooge characters, how they portray them, you don't really care much about them just because they're so dislikable until the end.
Right.
And Michael Caine's version of Scrooge is so goddamn charming.
Yeah.
I didn't even hate Scrooge at the beginning.
I didn't either.
Because even when he was yelling, I was like, it's Michael Caine.
I also, because the fact he literally, like, picks up a puppet and throws it outside. Yeah. And I was like, I love it.
This movie was funny.
Yeah, it was funny.
I laughed a lot.
Yeah, there was a scene where these mice are like, please, sir, may I have some cheese?
It was like every Midwesterner ever.
I was like, I love it.
Yeah, it was funny. It was charming. Michael Caine is just, like, made me feel things. Mm-hmm. I did notice how, I was like, a note about how it's just, like, normal to interact with the puppets.
Yeah.
So I did notice that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was definitely, for me, out of all 5 of these movies, the most pleasant surprise.
Yeah. One more thing I wanted to mention in the background, but I had forgot because I didn't write it in the background, is in the initial run of this movie, Michael Eisner, who was the CEO of Disney at the time, requested that this song get removed from the movie. It's a song, The Love Is Gone, which was sung by Scrooge's love interest in the past, basically being like, we were in love once, but you're too obsessed with, like, money and work, you know. And he wanted it cut because he thought it was too boring for children. So you kind of end up with this kind of weird cut, and the version we watched was on Disney Plus has this, but they have it as extras on Disney Plus, and they are currently working on re-adding it back into the movie. So apparently what had happened is like the negatives were thought to be lost, so they couldn't like remaster that, but then they found them, so they're gonna remaster it. But yeah, so Hannah and I we added that song in, like we went to the extras and we watched it. I think it adds good context.
It makes you understand the story more.
Yeah.
You know.
I think it's important to have that in.
Yeah. Would you like to start with your favorite character?
Sure. Scrooge.
Yeah.
I love this portrayal of Scrooge. You really feel for him and understand this, like, development of him into this, like, obsessed with his work, crotchety man, you know, who's lost sight of, like, his life and, like, what life is like. And I feel like you really, in this version, see his relationship with Tiny Tim, like, specifically. Like, you can, like, feel how upset he is when he learns that he's dead in the future. And, like, his fear when you're, like, at the graveyard and he has to go look at the grave. Like, I believe everything he's saying and everything he's, like, emoting. It's really believable and it's really well done.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've already mentioned, like, how charming he was. I just really liked his role, and this is probably the only time I would have picked Scrooge as my favorite character in A Christmas Carol adaptation. Yeah.
Let's do favorite line.
Okay, so one of mine was, "The please, sir, can I have some more cheese?" Mm-hmm. Another one, it was, like, I think it was the two, like, narrators.
Oh, God. Like, Charles Dickens and Rizzo.
Right. I think it was them talking, and they're like, "Should we be worried about the kids in the audience?" And he's like, "No, it's all right. This is culture.
This is culture." I really liked that line as well. That was one of my favorites. It's because there's some, like, dark elements. So essentially they turned the Marley into two characters, basically the old men in the theater who laugh and make fun of people. They just made them both, like, brothers, like Marley brothers, for the sake of this movie. Like, their song was pretty dark and creepy, and there was, like, some disturbing imagery in there that, like, I don't really remember as a kid, but I feel like could definitely, like, be scary. Give you nightmares. Mm-hmm. So favorite scene, I really liked a lot of the ensemble scenes with the puppets. Like, especially the present day song. I can't remember what the name of the song is. It's, like, Christmas.
Feels like Christmas.
Feels like Christmas. You can see Scrooge kind of, like, dancing a little bit. Like, he's getting into it and seeing, like, what Christmas is all about. And I really liked that scene. I thought it was a lot of fun. And, like, getting to see all the puppets just kind of, like, it's fun to see, like, just normal people interacting with these, like, crazy puppets and things.
Yeah, my favorite scene was... I don't like that. I felt something on my hand.
I think you're psychosomatic. Imagining the spider.
It's not me.
Okay, let me... 1 minute.
I swear to God, I felt something on my hand.
Okay, stand still, please. Okay, I don't see anything.
I think it was my hair.
I think it was probably your hair.
I'm just freaking myself out now.
Okay, I don't see anything. I think you're safe.
I felt a chill.
It's probably ghost. It's
Probably.
Marley.
It's Marley.
Or the ghost of Christmas past is coming for you. Made me spill some of my water.
Oh.
I'm startled.
Well, I'm startled too.
Okay.
Okay, so my favorite scene is the scene where he's at the graveyard.
Yeah.
Because I just thought, like, it was done so well, like, portraying his emotions, and I very much felt for him. And, yeah, my favorite song was the one you were talking about, the Feels Like Christmas.
Feels Like Christmas.
I just thought the whole montage was really cool, and, like, Michael Caine just, like, dancing. I was like, love it.
So for best song incorporation, I actually picked where they introduced Scrooge, which is called Scrooge, because it, like, felt very musical. Really felt like in a musical, like the establishing character shot, like Belle, or like No One Mourns the Wicked from Wicked, where it's like big number, like establishing the character. And I liked the angles, and I liked that you don't really see his face for most of it. Like, he's just like this looming figure with like these weird kind of like Dutch angles, or just like kind of slanted like views towards him. But I thought it was really well done. Yeah, I really liked it. It was a good rewatch.
Alright, next we have Happiest Season. So this was our newest Christmas movie. It came out in 2020. It was rated PG-13, an hour and 41 minutes. So it had $2.1 million in the box office. This was because this movie was originally supposed to just come out in theaters.
Right.
And then due to COVID, they decided to not do that, and Hulu ended up buying the rights to the movie and premiering it on Hulu as like a Hulu original Christmas movie.
Yes.
I'll get more to those numbers in a minute. So it had a 6.6 out of 10 on IMDb, an 82% on Rotten Tomatoes, and a 69% on Metacritic. Okay, so like I said, it ended up being released on Hulu. So it was estimated that 416,680 U.S. households watched it in the opening weekend, which makes it the best debut in Hulu's history for a movie.
Nice.
It was directed by Clea Duvall, and it was written by Duvall and Mary Holland, who plays Jane, the sister.
Okay,
she was one of the co-writers.
Okay.
So Duvall said that this film was sort of like a semi-autobiographical take on experiences from her real life with her family.
Gotcha.
So several reviews of this have named Mary Holland, who is Jane, as like the film's breakout star. Mm-hmm. The movie won a 2021 GLAAD Media Award for Outstanding Film. Mm-hmm. And then in May of 2021, Mary Holland said that a sequel is in the early stages of development.
Okay.
So there was supposed to be a sequel coming out. There was really not much background, just because it was sort of like recent movie, and also it came out in Hulu. But they did say that the filming ended shortly before like the big COVID pandemic started. Although I guess later on in an interview, Aubrey Plaza did say that a couple of the cast members did get COVID. Yeah. Like Kristen Stewart and a couple of the other people got COVID towards the end of filming, because they wrapped up like right around the time that Hollywood was like shutting down. So my summary. Aubrey Plaza, Kristen Stewart, and Dan Levy walk into a bar. Except it's a drag show bar in a wealthy town in upstate Pennsylvania. From here, the story gets interesting. Harper invites her girlfriend Abby home for the first time to meet her family. The only issue being, she has yet to come out to said family. With Abby forced back into the closet, both figuratively and literally, she will have to decide if it is worth it, or if she will have a blue Christmas. So this one's interesting because neither of us had seen it. Yeah. I had heard about it when it came out last year.
I remember I wanted to see it because I liked I remember seeing a trailer for it on YouTube. And sometimes I skip over movie trailers, and sometimes I am intrigued enough that I watch the whole thing. This was one of the ones that I watched the whole trailer because the cast looked like a fun cast.
It's a really solid cast.
It is. Yeah.
You get Kristen Stewart, Dan Levy, Aubrey Plaza,
Alison Brie.
And then you have
Mary Steinenberg,
Victor Garber. Yeah. It's a really solid cast. And I think that this movie is because it's essentially the whole movie is essentially a coming out story. Yeah. And I think maybe during the Lifetime Hallmark, I kind of mentioned how people have said that a lot of LGBTQ plus media is includes a lot of coming out stories. Yeah. But I kind of feel like this one for me works in a way because
it's a little bit different.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because it does incorporate a lot of Christmas elements.
There's also the element of people being outed.
Yeah.
Without them being able to do that.
Multiple people.
Multiple people.
And I think that this movie feels really high stakes because it is the conflict is very we talked about in Lifetime and Hallmark how some of that was just there was no really conflict because it was just it would have been fine either way.
Right.
This feels really high stakes, and I think the cast plays off one another really well. Mm-hmm. You can tell you have a lot of comedic people because there's a lot of stuff that maybe felt like it was almost improv in a way. Yeah. I do actually really like Jane, and I think a lot of times those side funny token characters end up being either really annoying or the humor doesn't fall, the humor falls flat. Right. I actually thought her scenes were really funny.
Yeah, when we first got introduced to her, I was kind of worried because I'm oh no, is this going to be the cringy, creepy girl character, that falls into this trope, and I was pleasantly surprised to see that was not the case.
Yeah. And I think this is a movie, too, where I can see both sides of this conflict. But yeah, I liked it. I thought it was a good movie. I laughed.
I really liked a lot of the character dynamics in this movie. Of course, Dan Levy just plays himself, essentially, and, like, he's great. I love him. And I also just wanted to mention that the beginning of this movie is, like, old-timey, like, print ads from, like, the 50s or 60s, but, like, they look really creepy. So I was, like, off-put by the intro a little bit. Just because I don't know, I'm very particular about design of stuff. But yeah, I thought it was a pretty solid movie. It's definitely, like, hard because it's the first time I've seen it. In a lot of these, it's, like, I've seen multiple times. So it's hard to compare, you know, between them. Yeah, I thought it was solid. It was a solid movie.
So my favorite character is Abby. Kristen Stewart, like, we've talked about this with Twilight. Like, she is a really great actress. And I think in this role, it really worked for her. I just thought her character, to me, was the one that I could reason with the most. I felt for her, and I feel like she essentially was put in a really tough position, kind of being forced back into the closet when she was already out and, like, proud of who she was. And I think she was trying to be supportive, but it reached a certain point where she really wasn't, that you can only handle so much. And so I think that her character, to me, was like, I felt the most sympathy for her.
Yeah, I picked Abby as well. I liked, like, all of her interactions with a bunch of different characters are all really interesting. Like, her, like, friendship with Aubrey Plaza's character. I really liked their dynamic together and them being able to discuss Harper. I liked her relationship with, like, Dan Levy and with Harper, like, her with her girlfriend. Like, there was a lot of, like, really interesting character work. And I like that she tries to be supportive and tries to not be her girlfriend with her family, but ultimately, like, when she's talking to Dan Levy's character and she's like, I need to be with somebody who will want to be with me, like, out. Like, I don't want to be with someone who's still, like, not ready to make that step, like, take that step.
Which is completely fair.
Yeah, which is fair. Well, I was going to say, like, that's not really something I can personally relate to.
Right.
But, like, you can really feel, like, that's very important to her. Yeah. And, like, at this stage in the relationship, she just, like, doesn't know if she can do that, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So I think for scene, I really liked pretty much every scene between Abby and John. There's a scene at the beginning where she calls him and she's like, so yeah, I'm pretending to be straight. And he's like, have they ever met, like, a lesbian before? And I really liked this scene where he was kind of explaining to her that, like, everyone's coming out story is different. He's like, your parents were super cool that my dad kicked me out of the house and didn't talk to me for, like, 10 years. So he's trying to get her to understand that, like, it's not about her. It's the fact that she's scared how her parents will react. Harper is scared about that. But yeah, I thought their scenes together were just very, like, they have good chemistry and they seemed like believable as friends.
Yeah, I also really liked that scene where they were talking about what was you like when you told your parents, and she was like, they were very supportive, and he was like, mine were not. So everybody's story, how they get there, is different, and I thought that was really well done.
I also loved him pretending to be straight at the party, and he was like, "How much do you bench?" She's like, 1,000 pounds.
He's like, "You lift?"
Yeah,
I loved that too.
There was just a line where he's like, "Oh, you must be Harper's orphan friend."
I wrote down the exact same thing. The fact that they just were like, "Oh, you're Harper's orphan friend."
That was one of those jokes where I thought it was going to get old, and it didn't.
It didn't.
Because at the end, when she's talking to Aubrey Plaza, she goes, "Oh, I'm Harper's orphan." Like, she introduces herself as an orphan.
Like, I'm the orphan.
So that was my favorite line. I think my favorite song incorporation was when they were at the drag show bar, like her and Aubrey Plaza were, and they were, Must Be Santa Claus.
Yeah, Must Be Santa
and me and Alyssa both turned to each other and were like, oh, this is a Christmas song.
Yeah, we both forgot that it existed.
It was a song. But yeah, I just liked that whole scene. I thought it was fun.
I also really liked that scene too, but I put the, there's like an instrumental version of Oh Holy Night that plays once their, like, family comes together on Christmas and, like, has, like, a really pleasant time, and I thought that was, like, a really nice moment. Like, that you didn't need words once that moment had happened. Like, you could just have this, like, feeling, like, you know, it's one of those things where it's like show don't tell, where, like, you could see that emotion and, like, the feelings there without having to have any dialogue.
Do you know that we've watched 2 different Christmas movies that have had drag?
Yeah, that's what I was like. I'm like, another one with drag.
I was like, I'm so impressed.
Yeah, I know. It's like,
said it really makes me want to go to a drag show.
I know, that's what we were talking about. We're like, where can we go
Apparently there's one at Royal Oak, I've been told.
Okay, good to know. Our last movie is Love Actually. So Love Actually was released in 2003. It has a runtime of 2 hours and 16 minutes and is rated R. So this movie grossed $246 million on a $40 to $55 million budget. It has a large ensemble cast who had all pretty much worked previously with the director, Richard Curtis. So the movie was nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Motion Picture for Musical or Comedy, and it is shown to be way more popular with audiences than it is with critics. It didn't necessarily review well with critics. So initially this movie started as 2 separate films that the director was writing, and it was the plots of Hugh Grant's character and Colin Firth's character, and eventually he decided that the plots were similar enough that he just started to combine them together, and then ultimately, inspired by like films by Robert Altman and like Pulp Fiction, like, you know, the more like multiple storylines coming together, decided to make this like an ensemble multiple storylines film. So initially it was 14 scenarios that they had to cut out 4 of them. 2 of the scenarios were actually filmed. One of them was going to be a plot line where the headmaster of the school where the children went to was dealing with her like partner dying, or like was dying from something, and they had to like cut a bunch of stuff out because they were rushing to get it out before Christmas for like 2003. So there was like a lot of stuff cut, and there was apparently it was like a nightmare to edit the movie, which I believe. So another thing that's interesting is the US and UK versions of this movie had slightly different soundtracks. So they changed some of the songs. Notably, like Kelly Clarkson, a version of her song was added into the movie to replace a different artist. And there's another song that changed as well. I couldn't really get definitive answer why that had to be, but that's the way it was. So the movie has a 64% on Rotten Tomato and a Metacritic score of 55 out of 100. And now I have some just like random facts that I found. So in this movie, Keira Knightley is 5 years older than Thomas Brody, who plays Sam. There's a 5-year age gap in real life between the two of them.
I remember the first time I heard that, I was blown away.
Yeah.
Because she looks like she would be, like, at least 15 years older.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. So Andrew Lincoln was unsure of his character, as he described it as, quote, borderline stalker territory, and has, since said that he wishes the character would have been written differently. And I have to say that I agree with him. Another thing is that Sam, Thomas Brody's character, was supposed to be a gymnast, and the end montage of running through the airport was supposed to be a lot more like dodging people and items, and he was supposed to do a lot of like stunts and gymnast work over it, and apparently that had to get cut out, so they had to like redo a bunch of the scenes and like cut a bunch of stuff out of that. I thought that was interesting. So now I have my summary. In this interwebbed ensemble cast of some of your favorite British actors and actresses, love is all around us. While there are some questionable characters and humor that doesn't hold up about 20 years later, and plot lines that you will not care about, there are maybe 2 or 3 character stories that will pull at your heartstrings. Oh, and Alan Rickman plays his most evil role of his entire film career. Even worse than Hans Gruber and Severus Snape combined. Worst Husband of the Year award.
Yeah, like, he is so horrible.
Horrible.
So horrible. After this movie came out, they did, like, the Valentine's Day, the New Year's Eve. They tried to do a bunch of these different varieties.
Yeah.
I think this is, like, the best well done of, like, the huge megastar cast.
I think so, too. I would agree.
It's interesting because I don't know if it's because these people are all... If it's because these people are all British.
Yeah.
But most of the men are really damn charming.
Yeah.
Minus Alan Rickman and Andrew Lincoln's characters.
Yeah. Yes.
And, well, I guess the guy who goes to U.S. is not...
No.
He's just kind of skeezy.
Yeah, he's just a little sleazy.
But I think that it has a lot of stories and plot, but somehow a lot of it works for me.
A lot of it does work. I have to say, though, I love Colin Firth. Him in What a Girl Wants is, like, the ultimate DILF. But his role is one of my least favorites of this movie.
Really?
I have never liked that storyline. I don't know what it is. I just, like, every time I watch this movie, that's usually when I'm, like, if I need to, like, grab a snack or do something is when I do it. And I don't know if it's just me, but I don't know. I just, like, am upset because I love Colin Firth, and I just, like, I don't know. I can never get into that story until, like, I love the last scene. I love when, you know, he goes to the restaurant and he's learned her language and she's learned his language and they're able to connect. I like that bit. But, like, leading up to it, I'm just, like, not as attached to his story as I wish I could be.
That's one of my favorite storylines.
Okay, yeah.
I think the humor's really good in that storyline because neither of them can understand each other.
Yeah.
And I also think, like, it's interesting because how do you communicate and fall in love with someone who you can't really have a conversation with? Mm-hmm. For most of their storyline, they're essentially just, like, gesturing and trying to figure out what the other person is saying. And I think it's, like, super romantic how they both learned each other's language and they end up meeting at the end. It's not my favorite storyline, but it's always been one of my favorites. I really dislike the whole Keira Knightley.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I watched this movie, I thought that the friend was in love with her husband.
Yeah, I remember you
I thought it was like a gay
I remember
romance
you thought that.
plot.
Yeah.
I just, like, I don't super love the idea of, like, him basically trying to steal his best friend's wife.
Yeah, but, well, one, it's like, he was filming for their wedding and he only filmed her. Mm-hmm. Like, essentially was doing close-ups of her and then also, like, I know it's, like, spoofed a lot, like, SNL's done it with, like, Hillary Clinton and a bunch of other things with, like, the written cards, like, say it's Christmas Carolers. But, yeah, it is really creepy. Yeah. That he's just, like, shows up, like, his best friend's just gotten married to this girl and he's just like, hey, I'm in love with you.
Yeah.
And, like, I agree with Andrew Lincoln. I think that his character could have been written better to convey that without it coming across as, like, creepy and uncomfortable.
I think, too, the first, like, 10 to 15 minutes are done really well.
Yeah.
To introduce all the characters and not have it be super confusing. Obviously, there's some really talented actors and actresses in this movie.
Yeah.
A lot of people who are still, like, really prolific in Hollywood and media. I mean, you know, sadly, like, Alan Rickman's no longer here.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot of these people who are very much, like, big actors and actresses.
Yeah.
And I think it's just, I don't know, like, I think the characters are so charming for the most part. I think they make you care about multiple storylines.
Yeah.
And I just think it's, like, it's a fun, like, cute holiday movie. I do agree some of the stuff is, like, a bit, like, problematic nowadays.
I have a huge issue with the fat shaming of Natalie.
Yeah.
Because she's not even, like, overweight or, like, obese or anything like that. And her whole character is people making fun of her weight constantly.
Yes.
Like, her family makes fun of her weight. Her coworkers make fun of her weight. She makes comments about it. But again, if everyone's making comments. And I just, like, I hate that that's just her character.
Yeah.
Is that Hugh Grant's character thinks she has a thing with the president and that she's fat. And I hate it.
And it's kind of a shame because I think her character is, like, actually a really great character.
I like her character. She's funny.
I love the scene where she meets Hugh Grant for the first time and she, like, swears and she's like, oh, I wasn't supposed to swear, and, like, swears again.
She's like, I had, like, a vision that I was afraid that I was going to fuck it up. Yeah. And then she's like, oh, piss. Like, yeah.
And I don't know. I think it's, like, to me, it's, like, I think it relies heavily on because let's be honest, this is not one of the greatest movies.
Yeah.
But it relies very heavily on character interactions and, like, the work that the actors and actresses put into their roles, I think.
I think so, too. I would say there's, like, 2 storylines that are, or maybe 3. There's 3 that I, like, really care about.
I think, to me, it's Emma Thompson's.
Emma Thompson, yep. It's Hugh Grant and Natalie.
Yeah, and I also think the
Sam and his stepdad, not Daniel Craig, Liam Neeson.
And then the girl who Sam is also like falling for.
Those are my 3, like, the ones that I really care about. And
yeah.
a lot of the other ones are like, I'm like, meh, it's fine.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's a fun movie.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I think so.
So favorite character is very hard because there are a lot of characters.
I picked 2.
Okay. I did Emma Thompson.
Karen. I picked Emma Thompson as well.
Because she's just magnificent.
Ooh, yeah.
And gets me in the feels.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
And then I also picked... Ooh, it's a tie because I had Liam Neeson.
I also picked Liam Neeson as well.
Yeah.
Those were my 2 ties. I'll save hers because some of my other favorite stuff involves some of her things. But, like, with Liam Neeson, his whole thing is his wife has died, and he has this stepson, and he's just trying to be there for him, trying to relate to him, and their dynamic is so fun. And, like, we love a great stepdad. Relies on his friends.
Good luck.
I will find you, and I will kill you.
Liam Neeson's always been the overachieving dad.
Yeah, but, you know, so we love that relationship, you know, and he just wants his, like, stepson to be happy and have joy. And I really like that dynamic. So my favorite scene and song use is when Joni Mitchell, Both Sides Now, plays when Emma Thompson's character finds out that her husband's cheating on her, and she goes upstairs to her room, and this song plays, and, like, she's talked about how much she's like Joni Mitchell, but she found a necklace in his pocket, and she thinks she's gonna get it, and it turns out he got her the CD and not the locket, which basically it's like she now knows that, you know, he's given it to someone else, and, like, she just goes upstairs and cries, and it's like, that performance is so moving. Like, it gets me every time. And it's like, it just makes you feel like so, like, you can feel all of her pain. And she's like, I just has to have, like, a minute just to feel it. And then she has to get herself together to take her kids to, like, their stage production. And it's like, it's fantastic. So it got my favorite scene and my best song use.
Yeah, I did the same. That scene is, to me, the first time I watched the movie, that's the one I remembered.
Yeah, same.
Every time I watch this movie, I'm always just waiting to be punched in the face by that scene. Emma Thompson is just, like, a great actress.
Yeah.
And the fact that, like, she can make me feel that, like, emotional about a situation that I've never had personally happen is kind of insane because, like, I've never been in that situation, but I'm like, I can feel it. Like, that's heartbreaking. And just throughout the movie, like, she's very supportive of, like, Liam Neeson. They're, like, friends, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what their relation is.
I think that, she's friends with him.
Because their kids go to school together.
Yeah,
I'm not
I think
sure
that's
how
part
they met.
of it. Yeah, I think that's part of it.
But yeah, just, like, seeing her being supportive of Liam Neeson and knowing she has to put herself together for her kids, like you said, but she gives herself, like, a moment to fall apart, and then she just, like, pulls it together. Yeah, that whole thing is just breaks my heart every time.
Yeah.
I did have a favorite line.
Okay.
It's when Sam's talking to Liam Neeson, and he's like, let's go get the shit kicked out of us by love.
I wrote the same line. Yeah, let's get the shit kicked out of us by love. I love, like, that line.
True.
It's great. I'm like, I feel it. I'm there.
Feel it. But yeah.
Yeah. That's our Christmas movies.
That's it.
Yeah. So that's our 5.
All right. I think I'm going first.
I think you are. This was by far one of the hardest rankings I've ever done because we didn't have, like, a bad movie.
And also, they're all very different.
Yeah, they're all
so it's hard
very
to
different.
compare them. So I tried. Yeah, I agree. None of these movies were bad. I didn't dislike any of these movies.
I didn't dislike any of them. I thought they were all solid.
Yeah.
Solid Christmas movies.
Okay, so number 5, I ended up putting The Grinch.
Okay.
Basically, I think the movie is great. I do think, though, in this format, you don't understand why the Grinch is the way he is, and the Who's look like the heroes. And I think not having the Grinch have backstory, it gets rid of the character development. And I'm a big character development person.
Yeah.
So that's why I put it last, even though I do love it.
For number 5, I put Happiest Season. So I really liked this movie, and I thought it had a lot of really interesting dynamics. But I think maybe because this is the first time I've seen it, it was hard for me to compare to a lot of these things that I've seen so many times and I enjoy. So I'm curious if I watch it, you know, again, like, if my opinion would change. But for now, I have it at 5th.
Number 4, I went with The Muppets Christmas Carol. I wrote that I've never given a shit about The Christmas Carol until this film. I think it's really funny. It's charming. I think the only issue is that until this viewing, I had not seen it in so long. So it's kind of like watching it for the first time for me.
Yeah.
And also the fact that, like, I very much dislike The Christmas Carol. This movie does pull it up for me, but I think it just, like, is hindered by the fact that I do not like the normal Christmas Carol.
So number 4, I have Love Actually. So I genuinely really like this movie. I think it's really heartwarming and really emotional, but I can acknowledge that not all the storylines work, and there are some elements that I don't care about. And because of that, like, even though, the scene with Emma Thompson is, like, one of my favorite moments of, like, a holiday movie, like, in general, but I can recognize that there are some flaws with it, and so I have it as number 4.
Number 3, I have Christmas Vacation.
Okay.
I did not think this would be the third movie on my list.
Mm-hmm.
I think the problem is, though, that I've seen this movie so many times that it almost becomes, like, mindless watching to a certain point.
Yeah.
Because I didn't even fully watch the movie this year. I was able to do my notes just off the fact that I've seen it so many times. But it's super funny. It's relatable. It's fun. It's, like I said, I could quote most of this movie. I think maybe it's, like, our collective family's, like, Christmas movie, just because it's one we always do watch every year. But it's never been, like, my favorite Christmas movie. Okay. But it is, like, it's very funny.
So number 3, I have A Muppet's Christmas Carol. And I agree. I think it is a really endearing, fun version of this story. I think having the Muppets works really well. Michael Caine's version of Scrooge is really, like, you can really relate to him. You can really feel for him. And it was pleasantly surprising. I've seen this before, but I haven't seen it as an adult ever. And so I was very pleased with what we saw and, like, what the story was in this version.
Yeah, number 2, I put Happiest Season. And this one was hard because it was the first time I had watched it, but I really was like, I really liked the cast of this movie. I thought it was funny. I thought that the reason I think I liked this one so much is because the conflict felt real. Mm-hmm. It felt like actual conflict that, like, had stakes to it. I don't know. It's hard with a movie that I've only seen once. I don't know if I'm just, like, overhyping it in my head because I wanted to like it as much as I did.
Yeah.
But I do think it's a solid movie.
Yeah, so number 2, I have The Grinch. I'm going to disagree with you. We don't need that backstory. We don't need a Grinch backstory. We don't need all the details. Don't get me wrong. I love the Jim Carrey version of The Grinch. Like, love it. It's fantastic. But this version is a simple story, and it doesn't have to be anything else besides that. You know, we don't need overarching plot and this backstory. This is a book made for children. It's a children's story, and therefore the television special, it can just be a simple story and still be enjoyable. I think it holds up really well. I think it has the message of Christmas. It's just, like, this story about this town celebrating Christmas and this, like, Grinch coming and stealing it. And I think that works really well, and I've always really enjoyed it. So, number 2.
All right, number 1 is Love Actually. Mm-hmm. And I know this is not a great movie. I know that it's not probably the best Christmas movie on this list, but, like, god damn it, that cast is charming.
I know, it is.
That Emma Thompson scene is not just, like, one of my favorite scenes in a Christmas movie. It's like one of my favorite movie scenes just in general.
Yeah, it's powerful.
The way she makes you feel things. I think it just works really well, and I do care about a lot of side characters, which I normally don't. It's just, I think I was blinded by the love this year.
The love.
All
you need is love, Hannah.
Yeah.
So number 1, I have Christmas Vacation. And you're probably right. I'm probably blinded by the fact that I've seen this movie so many times, and it's, like, so ingrained with my idea of Christmas that I love it. It is a comedy. It's a comedic Christmas movie. And a lot of the comedy holds up. I can agree with you that I think the one thing that this movie doesn't have is it's not, like, a wholesome Christmas movie. And I have a Christmas movie that I would consider my favorite, and we didn't watch it in this group. So I'll be interested to see if we include that ever in the future, where this will rank, you know, how I would rank Christmas Vacation against some other movies. But I think it holds up really well. It's, like, very ingrained with my growing up with Christmas. So for that, I felt like it needed to be at number 1.
All right, so number 5, I had The Grinch. Number 4, Muppets Christmas Carol. Number 3, Christmas Vacation. Number 2, Happiest Season. Number 1, Love Actually.
So I had number 5, Happiest Season, number 4, Love Actually, number 3, A Muppet's Christmas Carol, or The Muppets Christmas Carol, number 2, The Grinch, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and number 1, Christmas Vacation. We did not have a single movie in even remotely same order.
I didn't really think we would, just because it was so hard to rank.
It was very hard.
I feel like even next year when we like add on, I could probably switch the order of this.
They might switch around, yeah. It might happen.
So that is a wrap on Christmas.
It's a wrap.
And it's also a wrap on 2021.
It is. This is our last episode of the year. Yeah. So we'll be back in next week with a year in recap episode.
It's going to be a little bit different of an episode.
Yeah, I think it might be a little shorter.
Yeah.
It's just going to be whatever we want it to be.
Right.
Yeah.
We will have a couple extra, like, bonus episodes as well.
Yes, we're going to be releasing a few things. You'll find about those later. I'm sure we'll post some things about it on social media. And yeah, if you would like to contact us, we have an Instagram, we have Twitter, we have an email, r3podcast@gmail.com. If you would like to contact us, any suggestions, any comments, anything you think would improve, or we could improve on going into the new year.
If you have, like, episode ideas for next year. We have gotten some suggestions.
We have, yes.
Recently that we're going to incorporate into next year. But, yeah, if you have any more you would like to see us do. If you have any suggestions for, I know it's really early in advance, but for next year's Christmas movies.
Yes.
That you would like us to watch, you can definitely let us know about that. Cheers to 2021.
Cheers to 2021.
And we'll be back in 2022.
Bye.
Bye. We would like to thank Joseph McDade for our intro music. He provides free music available for all kinds of creative use. The song that we used is called Sunrise Expedition, and you can find it and his other music on his website, josephmcdade.com. If you would like to reach us, you can email us at r3podcasts@gmail.com. That's R, the number 3, podcasts@gmail.com. Or you can find us on Instagram by searching Research, Rank, Repeat.